Let me verify. Oh, I think we're in the matrix. Here it goes. Awesome. Yeah, we're going. Excellent. Hey, what's up? What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year to everybody that's out and about. We're super glad that you've made it through another rotation of the Earth rotating around the sun, I guess is how that works. I haven't had enough coffee to be super scientific, but we're happy that you're here. We're happy you're joining us. Hopefully, you've had a really great holiday season, a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful Hanukkah, a happy New Year, whatever it is that you celebrate during this time. Hopefully, it's been good and it's been full of laughter and good times with families and good memories. Unfortunately, we know that that's not the reality for everybody. All get dark really fast on us. Holiday seasons are tough for a lot of people, and especially a lot of families that are struggling with loved ones who have substance use disorders and mental health disorders. The holidays can be pretty painful and can be sorrowful. And so if that was your experience, you've made it through. It's now January 3rd. You're through that season. And hopefully you and your family can turn the corner and start 2023 off a little bit differently than you ended 2022. So glad you're here. This is another edition of Parents Helping Parents Live. If you're not familiar with Parents Helping Parents, we're an Oklahoma-based nonprofit organization founded by parents, primarily run by parents, with the mission of connecting parents who have a child any age struggling with a substance use disorder with resources, providing them with education, and sharing our experiences with those families, some of the things that we've learned along the way. So a lot of parents we serve have young people who are maybe 12, 13, 14, 15. They're just getting started experimenting with drugs and alcohol. They're really early in the process. We want to help those families. Some of the parents we serve have children who are well into adulthood, who are 30, 40, 50, who are still struggling with substance use disorders, maybe in and out of recovery. Some of our parents have young people who have been able to find recovery and find long-term recovery, which has been exciting. Some of our parents have young people who are still active in their addiction and lots of places in between. And we have parents that volunteer for us and do some things with us who unfortunately have lost a child to the disease of addiction or alcoholism. So wherever you're at on that spectrum, we're glad you're here. And I think that you're going to hear some positive things that could be helpful for you from our speaker and from our conversation. So everybody do me a favor real quick, if you would. Reach over, click the share button if you're watching live on Facebook. That does a couple of different things. It helps us reach more people, essentially. The number of people that are watching this live on Facebook are only people who follow Parents Helping Parents. And so if you share this to your wall, we're going to just blow it out in terms of how many people have availability to hear a message of hope and of change tonight. So hit the share button. That's wonderful. If you notice me commenting on the comments, I am not the beautiful blonde that's in the icon live on Facebook that's commenting. That's my wife. I was fixing to tell Dustin about this. I've had the strangest Facebook experience where I got a notification early this morning that someone was attempting to log into my account. I said that wasn't me. And then I immediately had like 200 Facebook notifications in a row, and my whole thing got locked down, banned, shut down. And I had to like submit this request this morning to get everything back up and running. And if they don't approve that request, it all is just permanently deleted. And I guess I got to start over. So fingers crossed that I'll be back on Facebook and Instagram. So for the live stream tonight, I actually am connecting through my wife's Facebook page. She was gracious enough to let me do that. So, man, I'm trying to think of what else I usually tell people. If you want more information about Parents Helping Parents, we've got some exciting things coming up this spring, including a big fundraiser and one of our big annual events that's coming up at the Will Rogers Theater. So for more information about that, check us out on Facebook. Make sure you follow us and like us there at Parents Helping Parents Inc. at Parents Helping Parents Inc., or you can check out our website, www.parentshelpingparents.info, are the two places to kind of get engaged with us. So if you want to interact with us tonight, unfortunately, we just have one option. Typically, we have a public option and a private option, but because of the change up, I'm actually using my wife's laptop, who is not connected to the Google text line that we typically use. So if you want to interact with us tonight, if you want to ask questions and you want to comment, the only way you'll be able to do that is through the Facebook comments, which I will be monitoring here on the right side of my screen. So if you've got questions for Dustin or for myself, or you need more information about something, be sure that you pop in there. I want to make sure that people know that one of the things we do at Parents Helping Parents is connect people with to people who have professional expertise and experience. As an organization, Parents Helping Parents has no professional expertise or experience. Nothing that we offer, none of the outreach that we do is any substitute for professional counseling, professional legal advice, professional medical advice. All of those things are wonderful. And if you need those things in your life, we want to help connect you to those resources. But our mission is limited to just connecting you with the resource, providing some education, and sharing our own experiences. At times, we get to bring in professionals who actually have some expertise, like our speaker tonight. But as an organization, that's just not our bag. Our bag is to share our experiences, to connect you with the resources in your area. So, hey, with that being said, let me bring Dustin into view here. One thing you might notice if you get the emails, our speaker tonight was supposed to be a new friend of mine named Greg Cooney. Unfortunately, he had a change this morning in a travel schedule and was going to be stepping on a plane at about 6:55, which makes it impossible to do the live stream. So my ride or die, Dustin Huckabe, though, was able to step up to the plate. Some of you may be familiar with Dustin. He's been on before. He's been around Parents Helping Parents before. It's been a while, I think, since we've had Dustin on, because life has been busy for him. And so I'm excited for Dustin to share kind of what he's been up to and what's going on with him, and for us to discuss and talk through kind of some New Year's stuff and some change stuff. So Dustin, man, why don't you kind of introduce yourself, maybe talk for 5 or 10 minutes kind of about who you are, how you got to where you are, a little bit about your story so that people kind of know where you're coming from. And we'll just kind of go from there, brother. Thanks for being available and stepping in.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. Hey, everybody. My name is Dustin Huckabe. I'm a licensed master level social worker. I'm currently a therapist at the Children's Recovery Center down here in Norman. And a little bit about myself. I love the Spurs. I'm not a Thunder fan. And I love Parents Helping Parents and what they stand for. I always have. I met Hugh Benson, I want to say back in 2018. We went and got coffee, and ever since then, I've been pretty much attached to Parents Helping Parents in some way. So it's been a few years since I've been around Parents Helping Parents, and just enjoy everything that they do. I think, Hugh always talks about, giving people hugs and letting them know that we're there. And I think that the other part of Parents Helping Parents, what they do is they help reduce stigma throughout families. And I think that is just vital. It's huge. And so I love the mission that they do and what they do for the community. So it's always an honor and a privilege to be asked to be on here. And you're right, man. This past kind of last end of the year, 2022, coming into 2023, has been a huge shift in my life and in perspective. And so, Derek asked me, would I be on tonight? And I said, sure. What would you like for me to talk about? And it was kind of like, new beginnings. And so I was just thinking about that all day and kind of meditating on that. And, I was looking over at my wife, and, she's, caring for our little daughter. And so if you don't know, we had our baby Cora on November 30th. Yeah, thank you, 2022. And man, it changes everything. So perspective, I think, is the topic for me tonight, and a shift in focus of what that could look like in my life I'm in recovery. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means for me is that I haven't used any mind-altering substances since 2011. And my life today is unbelievable. It really is. It is not a life that I chose for myself. It's not a life that I even dreamed of. Everything that I have in my life is a direct result of people setting boundaries and recovery. Like it is a direct result of that, and it's wonderful, man. So that's where I'm at right now. I was working at Stages of Recovery. Shout out to Stages of Recovery. They have an intensive outpatient program in Oklahoma City, long-term sober living in Lubbock and Waco. Fantastic place to be. Love. I was there for about 2 years or so, and absolutely love what they do. They do great work over there. And so kind of towards the tail end of 2022, man, I was just kind of meditating on what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And I've always wanted to work with adolescents, young adults. And so I changed it up, and was praying about it and meditating about it and writing pros and cons list and all kinds of stuff, and decided to go down to the Children's Recovery Center and become a full-time therapist down there in pursuit of my licensed my clinical social worker license. And so that's where I'm at right now, man. That's where I'm at right now.
Dustin, you said that everything that you've got right now is a result of two things. One of those was people setting boundaries with you.
Mm-hmm.
A running theme for Parents Helping Parents topics and for questions is, what are healthy boundaries? How do we not enable, right? Thinking about that part of your story, why was that so vital to helping you change and in helping your family change their own stuff?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think the way that it helped me was that it saved my life. If I put it in the simplest terms, right? And what I mean by that is, I think that there's a paradox here, right? Like as a parent, like I'm a new parent, and I think about Cora, and I think about fentanyl, and I think about the drugs that are out there that are absolutely killing people. I mean, I think last year over 100,000 people died of this one drug, and I think about her, and it scares me, man. It absolutely scares me, and I think about parents who live in fear, right? They just live in fear of their little baby not being hurt, and not being homeless, and not living on the street, or living in the car, or struggling for food, or whatever it may be, right? And I did all of those things. They were self-induced things that I did in pursuit of a chemical that fundamentally changes the way that I think and feel and act and behave. And for me, I lost the ability to choose whether or not I was going to use that substance once I used that substance, right? Now, I think about Cora, and I think about, man, if she never drank, if she never used substances a day in her life, chances are she'll be fine, right? And she may not have this disease if she never messes with it. I messed with it, and I had the disease. There are some people that don't. There are some people that mimic very closely what it's like to have this disease, but for whatever reason can stop. I could not. And so the boundaries that my mom tried to put into my life, I just blew past them, right? Just blew past them, and she was at a loss of how do I set a boundary that he just doesn't just blast through, right? And when I got sober, or right before I got sober, I went to my mom. I told her that I was using IV heroin, and this is after being incarcerated multiple times, treatment multiple times, homeless multiple times. I mean, you name it, right? And she looked at me and she said, I can't help you. I can't help you. And man, that hit me like a ton of bricks at that time, because I was like, man, the one person that has enabled me pretty much my whole life and have never wanted me to hurt ever can't help me. So what do I do, right? And so for me, that was like one of the biggest boundaries that I received in my life. And ever since then, man, it was like sober living communities that I would live in. It was hanging out with sober people, doing sober things, doing all of these things, because I got to a point in my life where it was like I was either going to die, mom couldn't help me, or I was going to be incarcerated. That was my life trajectory. And so her setting those boundaries for me was important. And so when I look at like parents who ask me like, Dustin, what do I do? What do I do? How do I get them to treatment? What do I do? I tell them if they come home in the middle of the night, don't let them in. And that sounds really harsh. It sounds mean. Dustin, what do you mean? It's my daughter. Would you do that to Cora? The answer right now in my life is yes. Right. And that sounds really harsh, but the reality of it is that if I continue to enable a disease that does not care about your feelings or my feelings, I'm prolonging the inevitable, right? So boundaries are huge, and they help people find, I guess, their quote unquote bottom faster. And so the spiritual bottom, the emotional bottom, just being tired from living out on the streets, if that's what their experience is, right? Nobody likes to live out in a car when it's 100 degrees outside, or if it's snowing outside. You get tired of that pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been thinking a lot, and probably everybody has, right? It's New Year's, right? So everybody's, hopefully the mentality is that we're reflecting on the past year, we're evaluating, we're preparing, maybe doing some goal setting, and those type things for the next year. But thinking about like that in the context of what you said you were kind of thinking about and meditating about today, which is kind of this idea that perspective is what ultimately creates new things for us and new opportunities for us as best you can. And I know that like for people who are like just popping in, like Dustin has not been given these questions ahead of time. Like this is 100% just somebody speaking out of their heart and out of their passion. So Dustin, the best you can, like in terms of somebody who's experiencing substance use disorder, what is the perspective shift that needs to happen for them to find new change in the new year? And then the same question, but for families, what's the perspective shift that needs to happen for families for them to find change heading into the new year? Maybe with or without the young person changing, right?
Sure. I think I can wrap that up in one question, which is remarkable because I'm long-winded, and I think that perspective change is hope, right? That there is hope, that millions of people in the world get sober, right? And there's millions of people in the world that stay sober. And so when you think about that, I hope that gives you hope, right? Is that coming into this new year, this perspective change? Because here's the deal, man. When you're a parent or you're an individual that's living in the throes of substance use disorders, man, you're in the trenches. It's hard. Like hope isn't there, right? Like you're crying at night, calling the police, yelling and screaming. Probably there's no boundary setting. I mean, you're in it, man. And it is hard to pull out of that. But I'm here to tell you that there's hope. I'm here to tell you that perspective that you have of this is all it's ever going to be is a cognitive distortion. It is not true. It is not true. And it may feel that way. And the reality of it is that there are programs like Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Smart Recovery, Celebrate Recovery, Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, there are all kinds of programs out there. And what a beautiful time that we live in, right? Where this isn't 1935 when the Alcoholics Anonymous book got written, right? And it was really difficult to get groups to form and people to meet and all of these things, right? It's 2023 and we're on Zoom, right? Like when COVID happened, people thought that it was going to disband a lot of recovery meetings and things like this, and some of them they did, but in large numbers they actually got bigger and more robust because they could connect faster and be at different meetings that they normally would never have been in, right? So when I think about that, I think about like what an opportunity it is that we have to be able to seek out help, right? Like what a beautiful opportunity it is to be able to have a perspective of hope and change, because we all know that change is the most constant thing in the world. We all go through change. We all go through seasons, you know, and so I think that right now is a time where even though you may be going through it, if you're a parent, you may be in the middle of this and hopeless. There are a lot of parents that have gone through the same thing. And what I tell a lot of people that are new into recovery is I try to break down the uniqueness of it. And that sounds really strange, but I try to break down the uniqueness of their situation because I want them to know that millions of people have gotten sober and they stay sober, right? Like you are not unique in the fact that recovery is unattainable. It is absolutely attainable, right? And here are the resources to do that. It's the same with the family member, right? A long time ago in the early 2000s, a long time ago, 23 years ago, man, groups like this didn't exist, man. Parents helping parents didn't exist. Groups like this didn't exist. We didn't get on the computer and be able to just have a conversation like this and be able to send it out to the masses of people who want to see it, right? And you were more isolated then than you are now. And so I also think about the word focus. I think about the word focusing on, you know, what it is that you want your life to be, right? And where is it that you want to go? And being focused on that mission, right? So a lot of the families that I work with, when I worked at Stages and now at the CRC, is I have them write a mission statement for their family. And it's so huge for them to be, because they look at me like, what? Like, that's what you see on like a billboard. I don't know what you mean by a mission statement. And we'll sit down and we'll throw out words like joy and love and communication and respect and dignity and value and all of these, like these great words. And then we condense it down into like a 3 to 4 sentences. And it's like, man, post that on your refrigerator, right? So you're going into 2023, right? Sit down with your family and throw out these words, right? And then come up with something that it's purposeful, it's meaningful, it's tangible and doable, right? And you throw that up on your refrigerator and you say for 2023, man, this is where we're going. This is where this family is going. And if you're not going there, then we'll get you the help that you need. We'll do whatever it is that you need, but this is where our family is going, right? And I think that gives you hope. It gives you value. It gives you purpose, and you have a direction for where it is that you're trying to go. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say for families that are struggling, right? And even if you're an individual, a single parent, right, and your loved one, your husband, or your child is struggling, and you're by yourself, you can come up with a mission statement on your own. And then what I would want you to do is follow up with that, right? Like reach out to those people that you know that can help you. The phone is going to weigh 1,000 pounds, right? Like when I go to give you a number to get some help, this phone is going to weigh 1,000 pounds. And the reason why is because you have a lot of shame and you have a lot of guilt you're like, man, I'm going to expose somebody I don't know to my problems, and who wants to do that, right? But the phone doesn't weigh 1,000 pounds, right? And so pick it up and make that phone call, because it could be life-saving for you.
Yeah. Earlier, before we went live, Dustin, you were talking about the change in perspective too, of understanding the concept of the disease, and how important that is both for the individual and for the family. Will you touch on that just for a moment or two?
Yeah. So, okay. What were we talking about?
Yeah, you had said that the perspective shift, that once you realize that addiction or substance use isn't some sort of moral failing or isn't some sort of choice.
Oh, love that.
That changes everything for individuals and for families.
Oh, dude, that's huge. That's critical, man. And the reality of it is that there's a lot of people out there that absolutely, without a doubt, man. I feel like these people also think that the earth is flat, believe that substance use disorder is a moral failure, that they could stop if they wanted to, right? I can promise you that I never set out to hurt my family. I never set out to get on probation for as long as I was, 8 years. I never set out to not be able to get a job delivering pizzas. I never set out for that. I set out to have a good time. That's what I set out for, man. And I did not know, unbeknownst to me, that I had a potentially fatal disease, kind of like a benign tumor. And once I put substances into my body, that tumor kind of woke up, and it took over, right? There was no choice in the matter, right? It did not matter how much I loved you, how much I cared for you, how much I wanted to be there. It stopped. It didn't matter, right? And so people would say, well, Dustin, you're doing, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. And you're absolutely right. And that's where I live my life. I was absolutely insane, hurting the same people over and over and over, doing the same actions over and over and over, right? But I never set out to do that. And so I hope that if you're a parent out there that thinks that their 16-year-old, this happens a lot with adolescents, more so than it does, I think, with like adults that are 30, 40, 50 years old. But 16-year-olds and their parents think that, oh, it's just a phase, right? They'll grow out of it, and they're just having fun, right? And then one day maybe they've taken it a little too far. One day they'll snap out of it, and then we can have a beer together, right? And I can tell you that working in the substance abuse treatment world for almost 10 years, I rarely meet people that come to treatment of any kind that didn't need that level of care. Does that make sense? Like maybe one in I don't know, 50, maybe 1 in 100 people just got into some trouble, and parents got scared, sent them to treatment, and they're actually not somebody who suffers from this fatal disease. Most people who come see me haven't. And so we have to treat it that way. We have to treat it that severely because people's lives are on the line, right? And so I think the perspective change is to say, okay, if they do have this disease, speaking from a parent who maybe didn't believe it, what do I need to do about it, right? One, I think, is acceptance, right? Accepting of the fact that the individual that you care most about has a disease that maybe you don't know anything about. You've only seen the symptoms of it, right? The anger, the frustration, the holes in the walls, not coming home, breaking out in handcuffs, so to speak, right? You've seen the symptoms of it, and you think it's behavior. And so I think that part of it is acceptance, right? Accepting the fact that it's not a moral failure. And if they have it, they're not doomed. right? They're not doomed, right? Like there's so many forms of recovery out there and treatment out there that can meet their individual needs. Gosh, man, there are treatment centers that will allow you to have your dog there. There are treatment centers that I think there's a sober living home here in Oklahoma City that allows a wife and a husband to live together. Man, we're growing and we're developing programs that cater to everybody, and because everybody deserves help, everybody deserves hope, everybody deserves to not have stigma label them so much so that they don't ask for help, and that phone weighs 1,000 pounds. And so I think that perspective shift is acceptance, right? And then you may even go through the grieving cycle, right? A little bit, maybe become angry and sad and depressed and anxious and all of these things because you just don't know what to do. And that's okay. It's okay. It's normal, right? Because you don't know what to do. You're kind of out of control. And so I think acceptance is part of that, and then reaching out for help is the second part of that, right? Because you I may have lost control of my substance use disorder, but I am absolutely 100% responsible for my own recovery, right? Same with the parent. You may come to the acceptance of that individual who has substance use disorder. You might be on the fence on whether or not they have it or not, maybe, but you come to this acceptance and now you're responsible. Now you're responsible for your own recovery, because substance use disorder affects everyone in the family, right? Just like recovery, it's a ripple effect. It affects everybody. And so now you're responsible for that. Well, lucky you. We've got parents helping parents, Al-Anon, we have therapists, we have all kinds of stuff to be able to help you. And so I think it's taking responsibility and ownership of ourselves, and knowing that, man, you know what? It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question directly, but
yeah, for sure. I'm actually writing down what you just said, man, because I thought it was a little brilliant. Or at least the concept is that with acceptance also comes new responsibility.
Yeah,
big
time, dude. And that's hard, man. Like one of my downfalls is that man, I love sweets, love them, love sweets, and I eat them all the time. And I'm like, man, I need to stop eating sweets, right? And I'm just not there at that level of acceptance yet. But it is true, right? Is that we have to have a level of responsibility and self-governance, right? Now I want to make a clear distinction here. I'm not talking about full-blown like willpower, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that at all. I think that you have to have a community around you that supports what it is that you want to do, and then also accepts what it is that you want to do, right? And if I'm someone walking into recovery for the first time, I need to be around people that are in recovery. I need to be around them, right? There's a saying in the rooms of recovery that says, you know, if I go to a barbershop long enough, right, with no intention of getting a haircut, if I keep going long enough, I'll get a haircut, right? So it's the same thing. Like, I need to be around a community that supports what it is that I want to do. And same goes for parents. It's why parents helping parents exists, literally, is to be that support and that network for you, to be able to help you navigate that. Yeah. So I think self-governance, ownership, and the responsibility of knowing that, okay, if this is what my situation is, this is just the season that I'm in. And the reality of it is, it's only an experience. That's the beautiful thing, man. It's not forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just an experience that we're experiencing, and that experience will come to pass, right? And then I'll experience something new, and then that will come to pass, and then I'll keep experiencing different experiences as I go. So
you don't have to elaborate on this too much. I'm just curious, from to hear about what it's been like for you. And I know it's only been, a month and a half, right? Or so since you had your child. Is that right?
Yeah.
About a month and a half, a little over a
Well,
month.
that's a little over a month. Yeah.
Um, has that already changed like your ability to kind of reflect on your own experience as a child of parents going through addiction? Has that already begun to change how you reflect on that? Does that question make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. No, it definitely does. And the word that comes to my mind is terrified.
Mm,
That's the word that comes to my mind. Um, it almost sends shivers down my spine. Just terrified. Because what do you do when your back is against the wall, right? Like what do you do when all your intentions as a parent is to love your child unconditionally, unconditional positive regard, right? Unconditionally love you. But how do I set boundaries in my life? And at the same time, you still know that I love you, right? So hard to do, right? And it's a practice thing. And I think too is also, giving ourselves some grace, right? Giving ourselves some room, maybe to not always be right, you know? Like when I look at our baby and when she's crying in my arms and I can't console her, and I pass her on to mom and mom can't console her, and we're just in it together, and I think about like teamwork, and I think about what is this going to look like when she gets older, and I mean, all we want is the best, right? Like that's all you want. You don't, and so, but then there's also part of me that's hopeful, and part of that is hopeful within those boundaries. I think, going back to the self governance and the respect or the responsibility, is that I have a responsibility to set those boundaries because I can show love through those boundaries. And then what I'm doing is I'm showing her how to set healthy boundaries so that when she gets older and as time goes, that she knows what those boundaries look like, right? If you're living in a chaotic family, maybe due to alcoholism or drug addiction, man, maybe you started out in like me, right? Hopeful, gun ho, we're gonna have boundaries, and then that comes in and just tears it up, right? There are no boundaries. You're hopeless, right? And so I think part of it is getting that mission statement, getting back to where our family was at, or maybe a new trajectory, and then setting boundaries that correlate with the responsibility and the purpose of your mission statement, right? Because what it does is it also allows you to have value, right? It's like, this is what we value in our lives. This is what's important to us. Not to say that you're not, but here's the deal. If you're coming into the house, let's say, for example, and you're smoking weed and you're doing drugs and you're doing all of these things in the home, and as a parent, you hear this a lot of times too. Well, I'd rather them do it at my house. If they're going to do it, I'd rather them do it at my house. False. I say false to that. And that's just my opinion. The answer is no. You are not going to bring that into my house. Why? Because I respect our mission statement. I respect our value. I respect what we're doing here. And that's hard to do. But yeah, I think right now, I've been a dad for a month and like a week, and it's all new, man. It's all new, and we're going through this season in our life. It's brand new, and working somewhere new, and just everything is new, and that can be scary too, right? Like that can be scary within itself. But I think for my wife and I is that even when she's crying and she's uncontrollable, I can sit back and smile and be like, you know what, man, like I've got a great partner to do this with, and reminding ourselves, you know, we're a family, right? And this too shall pass. You know, this
Yeah.
too shall pass.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Dustin, man, congratulations on being a new dad
thanks,
and the
man.
new job. Happy New Year to you and your family, man. And thank you for everything you do in the recovery community, everything you do for our field and for young people's mental health and behavioral health. And thanks for being available, man, and being flexible to hop on and spend some time with us, man. I'm honored.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. It's always an honor and a privilege, man, to do these types of things. You know, like you and I are friends, and you know, we're not friends when we play ping pong together, but we're friends. And from the bottom of my heart, man, for me personally, I never thought I'd be in this position ever. And in my life, you know, if you heard my story long term, the long version of it, you wouldn't have thought of it either. And so, for me, from the bottom of my heart, it's always a pleasure, and I think that there's a responsibility too, right? To be someone who's in recovery, who's gone from it, to give back, right?
Yeah.
And to say, hey, man, like you're a therapist. Thank you, right? Thank you for jumping on the firing lines with people like me. You know, thank you for doing that, and then for me to be able to give back and talk to the people that are trying to get into recovery, or the parents that are trying to get into recovery, and say, you are loved. Your life is meaningful, it's purposeful, and there's value, right? And just because you may feel lost right now doesn't mean you have to be lost forever, right? And that there's hope out there for you. And that's my message, man, going into 2023 is embrace it. Embrace the change, embrace the new, right? And walk into it with both feet, right? Wholeheartedly, right? And embrace each season as it comes, because this too shall pass, you know?
Yeah. Excellent, man. Dustin, thank you, brother. For the people that are joining us, you could be doing 1,000 different things this Monday night, but you chose to be here with us, and we're honored and we appreciate it. So until then, Greg's going to be back in 2 weeks to do a makeup night, so that'll be exciting. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Dustin, have a wonderful New Year, buddy. We'll catch up with you later.
All right, man. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.